welcome to another episode of Retail Media Thursdays. I'm going to be talking to Jazz Polk from Omnicom about all things retail media, so sit back and enjoy. So Jazz, welcome to Retail Media Thursdays. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your role.
So thanks for having me. So my name is Jazz Polk. I am Business Development Director for Commerce at Omnicom Media Group. I have been working, I guess, always in retail for probably about the last 12 years, so everything from the shop floor. Spent sort of 5-6 years as a consumer goods recruiter and doing a lot of commercial recruitment. And I've spent the last 4 years in agency services in e-commerce and Amazon agencies as well. So recently joined Omnicom to kind of look at that intersection between media and commerce, which I think has been, a very interesting move to have made. Outside of work, I'm a mum. I've got a little 2-year-old. I'm into embroidery, which is like a hobby that not many people know about, but it gives me like peace of mind.
Great. And so tell us a little bit about a peak or a highlight of the week so far. It can be personal or professional, if you want to choose.
I'm going to go with the personal one, and it's to some people probably quite small, but my little boy learned to jump at the weekend.
Oh wow.
And he's 2 and he's just been really excited, just going jump, 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 and just like the little look on his face when he smiles and does it. It's one of those moments that you just never want to forget. So
that's amazing. Great. And so we're here at the Thirsty Bear in Bankside. So tell us a little bit about why you chose this pub.
Being really honest, it's close to the office.
It's convenient, yeah.
So it's 10 minutes away, but as I was saying, I walk past it every day. It's like a lovely venue. I know some of the team come here for drinks as well, and it's got a really cool vibe. Excellent.
Cool. So you started your career recruiting e-commerce teams.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about how that's changed for brands and for agencies in terms of resourcing and recruiting over the last few years.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, particularly in e-commerce. So if we think, there's probably like 3 phases to it. If you think sort of 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before the pandemic, what you would often find in consumer goods companies were a small team, or like maybe sometimes even only one person who was responsible for everything e-commerce, usually kind of like Amazon or D2C related. And the percentage of revenue that e-commerce probably meant to a business in many cases was single digit. You move into something like, when the pandemic hit, and suddenly there's this huge focus on this very small team to be able to deliver a lot of results in a time that no one really understood, and then that sort of agency model really took over and kind of like exploded. But when you move out of the pandemic, you've got companies who are now thinking actually they want to in-house more of the talent, and they want better understanding of the role that e-commerce plays and like how to resource it as well. So you're seeing a lot of new roles come about internally. You're seeing the agency and the internal team dynamic shift, where agencies are, rather than having everything outsourced, are becoming more strategic partners that can leverage kind of the knowledge of the industry in multiple clients. So it's a really interesting journey, because I don't know if many departments have gone through that amount of change in a very short period of time. And as I said, like a lot of new roles and capabilities being developed. But one thing I think is personally quite interesting is when there were such small teams 5 years ago, there wasn't organic talent being built and developed in companies when it came to e-commerce. So we're now at a juncture where we need to really think about how to build the teams for the future. Sure. Whether that's through new graduate programs, whether it's through like e-commerce rotations that didn't exist even a handful of years ago. So yeah, it's a very interesting time. I think every company has their own journey when it comes to resourcing. It's something we spend a lot of time talking about as well.
So you mentioned other departments and sort of upskilling and within organisations, how are roles evolving now with the rise of commerce and retail media? So how are other roles being upskilled to deal with this new shiny big thing?
So there's I think it's touched every department and every team, but there's a few specific examples. I think if you think about what was maybe previously referred to as like online shopper marketing a handful of years ago, is moving much more into kind of like sponsored advertising and paid media, which isn't a discipline that is traditionally sat internally in companies, and this is where agency resources come in. But also the understanding the impact of how fast moving the world of e-commerce is compared to traditional retail models as well. So everything from category management, thinking about shelf placement and digital shelf, but also supply chain and the impact of your supply chain not being equipped to deal with fast change and something that happens online, and the commercial impacts that makes in businesses as well. This also then feeds into finance teams, new media payment terms that maybe didn't exist before, procurement teams as well when trying to source a business model that works for their company in such a fast-changing landscape. But I think very specifically as well is the executive leadership understanding the importance that e-commerce has in their business, a channel that maybe was, there's one client example that was, I think, 7% of turnover 5 years ago that is now 15% turnover.
Right.
And this is even in a post-COVID world. So for a channel to double its revenue capacity, to understand how to resource that for the future, I think, yeah, it's a really interesting challenge and conversation. It's why I love the industry so much. A lot of people that have come into e-commerce maybe weren't brought up typically in a digital background. So the ability to kind of bring people on that journey and upskill people offers a lot.
Yeah, interesting. So let's shift now to the future of retail media measurement standards. So OMG recently launched a framework with the ISBA. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? What was the motivation behind it and what's the feedback been like so far?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting work stream. So I think it kicked off about a year before the report was even put together. And I think the idea was very much about trying to understand what are the barriers for brands to invest in retail media, what are the opportunities, what are the questions, but also the requirements and something that's become very fragmented and not standardized to help retailers gain investment from brands as well. So there are a number of consultations done that were with the brands to obviously hold the budgets and to help understand what their expectations are, but also getting multiple retailers in a room together and be able to have those open discussions about where they are now, where we need to get to, and like what are the specific steps that need to be done around some data, transparency, but all with keeping the consumer shopping experience in mind as well. So it's a really interesting piece of work. I think actually the insights from it are very practical, as well as a starting point and to get those conversations going for businesses and leaders. So I think the report came out a couple of months ago. We've seen a lot of teams consult with it to try and actually implement media strategies as well going forward. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this starting point works off for the future.
Yeah, and so it's a starting point, right? So what do you think the future holds with measurement and yeah, do you think that's enough already to keep that growing within the industry, or do you think that we'll need something else in place to help grow the retail media industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that it's not perfect. There's obviously the standards have to be put in place and the capabilities across retailers, but also new retail media networks launching as well. I think the fact that the conversation is there and that you've got participants willing to engage is a really crucial point. If we look at how we move forward, I think data, transparency, learnings, like for brands to be able to feel confident that their investment is making a business impact and how to kind of bring that to new retailers and new channels as well. So there's still more work to be done for sure. And I really do think that data and technology is going to be a real key part of that to help bring the sales teams, the marketing teams and the retailers together for that as well.
Excellent. Well, that leads me perfectly onto my next question, which was, we've seen the big news recently of the Omnicom acquisition of Flywheel. So how important is third-party tech to brands and retailers in terms of the growth of retail media? And do you think this is a sign of consolidation to come within the industry?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I mean, one we're super excited about. I think it's that intersection of commerce and sales data and performance data, but also looking at media data and how all of these different channels kind of come together for businesses in terms of capability. I think it's already been happening in terms of consolidation. If you think of some of the big acquisitions that have gone on across the holding groups and the media agencies and the data providers in the last few years, things like Profitero and Publicis. Obviously we've got Flywheel going into Omnicom, previously been part of an Amazon agency bought by another media agency as well. So I think it's about being fit for the future. It's about understanding how sales data works with media and measurement data, particularly when you look at all of the different channels that retail media is now touching. I don't think anyone has the answer yet, but we're working on it. So I think it's probably one of the more interesting times to be in this industry and get stuck into that. So yeah.
Great. Are you ready to move on to some quick fire questions now? I'll try and keep them quick fire.
I'll give it a go, yeah.
Well, so I mean, firstly, you became a top voice on LinkedIn recently,
I did.
So congrats.
Yes, thank you.
I've also seen that you post book recommendations, that you posted a few. So that'd be the first question. Any book recommendations that you can give us to kick off the new year?
Yeah, I think there's probably two that spring to mind specifically from a biz dev point of view. So Start With Why by Simon Sinek was probably one of my favourite and more inspiring leads. And there's a great book as well called The Jolt Effect, which is about helping clients at different part of their sales journey, supporting them make decisions and have high-performing sales teams as well.
Great. Cool, thank you. There's two there, brilliant. And so film or TV recommendations, anything you've seen recently that you'd recommend?
Oh God, when I was on maternity leave I watched a lot. I'm slowly making my way through Grey's Anatomy. I've just finished The Bear, which is really interesting if you want something that is like a little bit chaotic, but I'm a huge foodie, so that was really good, and I love like Michelin star dining, so it was like pretty awesome. And I'm currently watching Bodies as well, which again, very interesting crime thriller drama.
Nice, I've not seen that one.
It's really good, highly recommend. Yes.
Great. Cool. So third question, holiday destination, can you recommend somewhere you've maybe been, or even a dream holiday destination if you want?
Probably one of the favourite places I've been is Japan, because the culture is like insanely diverse, and the people, it's the friendliest people I've ever met, and I just had an absolute ball. And we did Borneo for our honeymoon, which again was really cool. But we tried to do all this stuff before we had children, because now we're basically stuck in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere to get out like nature, wildlife, and great food culture. Yeah.
Excellent. And so you dinner party, celebrity guest. If you could choose one person to have dinner with, famous person, it can be someone who's dead or alive. Who would you go for?
It's someone that not many people would know about, but there's a lady called Janine Shepherd, who has written a book called Never Tell Me Never. And she was previously, this is back in the 80s, like she was training to be one of Australia's first Winter Olympic skiers, which naturally in Australia you don't have many slopes. But she was hit by a car and she was made a paraplegic. And she kind of went on this like whole journey of being told she'd never have children, she'd never be able to walk again, and she learnt to walk. She became a professional horse rider, aerobatics pilot as well, and she went on to have 2 children. So in the face of being told she couldn't do something, she made her own destiny, and I was inspired by that as a little girl. From like, I think I came across it when I was about 7, and it's someone that I would absolutely love to sit and have a conversation with. That's super serious.
No, but that sounds like an amazing person.
It's inspiring, yeah.
Excellent.
And yeah, if not, otherwise I'd probably just love to sit with Steve Carell and have a chat with him.
Nice. He would be good.
Yes.
Very good. I was going to ask you what would be your drink of choice at the dinner, but seeing as you're a big foodie, let's go with what would be your meal of choice if you could have anything at that meal?
Oh God, this isn't really hard. This is one that I never know how to answer.
There's so many options.
I love a good katsu curry.
Lovely. That'd be good.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah. Excellent.
With a cosmopolitan, and then done.
Katsu curry, cosmopolitan. Perfect. Great. And thank you very much, Jazz.
No problem.
Great chatting to you. And yeah, speak soon.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.